I didn't realize my marriage had a rule until the night I broke it. A few days after our wedding, I noticed something small. My wife had cooked dinner early. The food smelled warm and familiar, the kind that makes a house feel settled, as if life had finally arranged itself properly. She placed the plate in front of me carefully, wiped her hands on a cloth, and stepped back. "I'm not hungry," she said. I laughed and told her she would eat later. She smiled, nodded, and sat across the room, watching quietly as I began. At first, I didn't think it mattered. The next morning, it happened again. She prepared breakfast, poured tea for me, and pushed the plate forward. When I asked her to join me, she shook her head. "I ate earlier," she said. Her voice was gentle, unbothered. That evening, the same thing happened. Dinner was ready. The plate was placed in front of me. She stood back. "I'll eat after," she said. I joked that she was trying to starve herself already. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that ends a conversation before it begins. And just like that, the moment passed. By the end of the week, I realized it was no longer a coincidence. She never ate with me. Not breakfast, not dinner, not even leftovers. She would wait until I was done, clear the table, and then disappear into the kitchen. Sometimes I heard plates clink softly. Sometimes I didn't hear anything at all. Whenever I asked, her answer never changed. "I'm not hungry. I ate already. I'll eat later." She never complained, never explained, never looked uncomfortable. It was as if this was simply how things were meant to be. One night I tried to insist. "Just sit with me," I said, "even if you don't eat." She hesitated, only for a moment, then shook her head. "You enjoy your food better when you eat alone," she said lightly. I laughed, though I wasn't sure why. That evening she brought the food and placed it in front of me as usual. But instead of stepping back, she stayed. She stood close enough that I could feel her presence behind me. I waited for her to say something. She didn't. I lifted the spoon slowly. As I took the first bite, I realized she wasn't watching the food. She was watching my face. She didn't move until I swallowed. Then she turned and walked away. That was the night I realized it wasn't just a habit. After what my wife did that night, I knew it wasn't an accident anymore. I finished my food, washed my hands, and went to bed beside her as usual. She spoke softly about the day, about nothing in particular, as if the moment at the table had never happened. Her voice was steady and relaxed. I lay awake longer than usual, listening to her breathing, replaying the way she had stood behind me, the way she had waited. In the morning, she prepared breakfast early. The smell of tea filled the kitchen. She placed the plate in front of me and stepped back. "I'll eat later," she said. I watched her carefully this time. Her face was calm. Her hands didn't shake. There was no sign that she had noticed anything strange the night before. I ate slowly. She remained standing until I finished. Only then did she clear the table and move into the kitchen. That evening it happened again. Dinner was ready. The plate was placed in front of me. She stood back, hands folded in front of her, eyes lowered. I paused with the spoon in my hand. She didn't speak. I took a bite. She waited. When I swallowed, she turned and walked away. By the third day, the pattern was clear. She never ate with me. She never left before I finished. She never explained. She always waited. On the fourth evening, I tried to make light of it. "You watch me like I'm taking an exam," I joked. She laughed softly. "You're imagining things." Her laughter was warm and familiar, the kind that made you feel foolish for asking questions. Later that night, as she washed the dishes, I noticed something else. She rinsed my plate separately, carefully. Then she poured the water away and washed her hands longer than usual. I didn't comment. The following afternoon, a neighbor stopped me outside the house. He was an older man, the kind who notices details without meaning to. "Your wife doesn't eat at home?" he asked casually. I frowned. "What do you mean?" "I see her sometimes," he said. "She stands outside waiting, always at mealtime." I forced a smile. "She just likes fresh air." He shrugged. "Maybe." That night, when she brought the food, I waited. She stood behind me as usual. I didn't touch the spoon. Seconds passed. The room felt still, too still. "Is something wrong?" she asked gently. I looked up at her. "Aren't you hungry?" She smiled. "I'll eat after." I nodded and took the first bite. She exhaled quietly. Later, when she returned to clear the dishes, I noticed she didn't touch what was left on my plate. She wrapped it carefully and put it away. That night, sleep didn't come easily. The pattern wasn't random anymore. It was deliberate. And I was beginning to understand something she wasn't saying. From that day, I started watching my wife more closely. I stopped asking her questions, not because my curiosity had faded, but because I had learned something important. Every question made her gentler, softer, more careful, and that calm made it harder to think clearly. So instead, I watched. I watched the way she stood during meals, always a little to the side, never directly in front of me. I watched how her eyes followed my movements, not out of affection, but attention. And I watched how she only relaxed after I finished eating. One afternoon, my younger cousin came to visit. He arrived earlier than expected and found us in the living room while dinner was still cooking. He laughed when he saw the food already set on the table. "You eat early in this house?" he said. My wife smiled. "He does." "And you?" my cousin asked. "I'll eat later," she replied without hesitation. He shrugged and sat with me while I ate. She remained standing, pretending to be busy with nothing in particular. After a while, my cousin leaned toward me and lowered his voice. "Does she always wait like that?" I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. He glanced toward the kitchen, where she stood with her back to us. "I've noticed it before. Even when I passed by last week, you eating, she waiting." I laughed too loudly. "It's nothing." He nodded slowly, unconvinced. "If you say so." That evening after my cousin left, the house felt heavier than usual. At dinner, she placed the plate in front of me and stepped back. I didn't move. She waited. Minutes passed. The food cooled. The room grew quiet. "Aren't you eating?" she asked, her voice still gentle. I looked at her. "I'm not hungry." For the first time since we married, she frowned. It was quick, so quick I might have missed it. But it was there. "You should eat while it's warm," she said. "I'll eat later." Her hands tightened at her sides. "You always eat now." "So do you," I replied calmly. "But you don't." Silence filled the room. She turned away abruptly and walked into the kitchen. I heard a cupboard open, close, open again, then nothing. After a while, she returned, smiling too brightly. "You're tired," she said. "Let's eat later." She reached for the plate. I stopped her. Her smile faltered. "What's wrong?" she asked too quickly. I studied her face, the careful calm, the practiced warmth. And I realized something then. This wasn't a habit. It was instruction. That night, she didn't come to bed right away. When she did, she lay facing the wall. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. The next morning, I left for work earlier than usual. As I walked away, I glanced back and saw her standing in the doorway, watching, waiting. By the time I returned that evening, I had made a decision. I didn't know what the rule was yet, but I knew this. If I wanted the truth, I would have to break it. That night, I decided to stop eating my wife's food. I didn't warn her. I pushed the plate away, stood up quietly, and went to bed hungry. I told myself the tension would pass by morning. I was wrong. By 2 a.m., a sound pulled me out of sleep. She was awake, sitting up, speaking. Not on the phone, not praying. She was speaking softly and steadily, like someone was listening carefully. Her voice sounded calm, familiar, almost practiced. I called her name. She laughed gently and said she was only saying her night prayers. But the room felt wrong. The air was heavy, cold, and I knew prayers don't answer back. Before sunrise, she dressed quietly and left the house. I followed her from a distance, careful not to be seen. She walked past the road, past the fence, toward the old grave near our house, the one I had passed countless times without ever questioning. She knelt beside it and began to speak. Not crying, not begging. She spoke clearly and confidently, like someone giving a report. Then she whispered, "He didn't eat." My body froze. That was when fear finally found me. When I confronted her later, she smiled and said it was nothing. That evening she cooked again. The smell filled the house. She placed the plate in front of me and stepped back. Waiting, watching. I didn't touch the food. Her smile slowly disappeared. That night the whispers returned. The lights flickered. The room felt crowded. At dawn I found a plate at the doorstep. My name was scratched underneath it. The food was untouched by time. I ran to the grave. It was open. Fresh soil. Deep marks. Carved into the stone were the words, "The rule is broken." I turned. She was standing behind me, calm, smiling. "You were never supposed to stop eating," she said. "He only rests when you eat." I ran. I never looked back. Some marriages are built on love. Others are built on rules you discover only after you break them.